So welcome to the node.js build working group meeting for the 29th of June 2021. We'll follow our standard agenda, which is to go through the issues that were tagged in the community issue, which was issue number 2690. So here, I'm just updating the notes there with that. The first thing tagged, so I guess before we get started, any announcements or news that people want to share?
Just if anyone's actually watching the stream or listening to the recording, the Jenkins CI will be locked down tomorrow to help prepare the security releases. So it's just that announcement, so people are aware.
That's good. Yeah, no, it's good to keep people heads up, and we figure that'll be for like till next.
Yeah, so tomorrow's Wednesday, so I'll lock down the CI tomorrow, and then that will be locked down until Thursday after the releases go out. I guess maybe from our point of view, it might be worth discussing if there's any machine maintenance we want to do in a brief period after the releases go out, but before I unlock the CI and let everyone else back on, because that's an opportunity where everything will be quiet. So if we do have anything we want to do machine maintenance wise, that may be a window of opportunity, but obviously perhaps not something that we want to spare, not something that would take a long time, because I don't want to drag into Friday. But if there is something that we think could be done to a machine or group of machines that will only take a couple of hours, then there's an opportunity on Thursday. Well, anticipating that the security release
is good. Yeah. I don't have anything. I'm on holiday actually on Thursday, so I won't even be around. I don't know if anybody else has anything urgent they think that we should do.
I don't think there's anything urgent. It's just things like if we want to. So I think there's an issue to update the benchmarking machines from Ubuntu 16. That is risky because the benchmarking machines are hosted at Nearform. They're not on a cloud CI provider. So if something were to go awry on that, those would actually probably knock that particular machine offline until perhaps the next working day or so, while we sort of round trip.
Those ones I don't think are used in the regular CI though, so I would just
I
would decouple those.
They are used in the V8 CI though, so that's the risk there in terms of the.
How many of them are there?
2, of which only I think one of them is used in the V8 CI. So actually, we only have the one machine that the V8 CI uses for Intel Linux, and I don't know the exact history for that. Whether that's just because we didn't want to tie up machines that we use for the regular CIs running V8 jobs.
At one point, trying to do the upgrade on the other one, right? If it's not used.
Yeah, like that.
Well, right. both are used for running benchmarks, but that's very infrequent. That's on particular PRs where someone has said
there's a risk.
Yeah. So I think the second machine is only ever used if someone runs the benchmarking job.
Yeah.
I think from my perspective. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say the thing is, when you're upgrading from 1604 to 1804, that's one of the few Ubuntu upgrades where I have had problems on certain types of machines. So particularly with these ones being a little bit special in their configuration, there might be a bit more of a risk of it. So yeah, I'd definitely consider doing one at a time, and probably the one that isn't used exclusively used the V8 builds, and maybe try and do it when there's someone from Nearform around that can kick it if it goes awry.
Yeah, so I'm not saying that we have to do machine maintenance in that window. It's an opportunity.
It's a good idea,
yeah. But I don't think that actually doing it in that window would help that instance.
Probably not.
Right, like we got 2 of them. As Stuart was suggesting, we should probably upgrade the second one first.
Yeah.
And then once we're comfortable that it works for the benchmark, like the regular benchmark runs. The only thing I can think about why we were using one is possibly 2 reasons. One, like historically, we used to run them on the one physical machine we had in SoftLayer,
Yeah.
And when that went away, we transitioned to use the other ones instead. And we now have two. So it might have been because we only had one. The other thing might have been is like we may have only manually installed some of the things like GN and Ninja, which were needed by that, onto one of the machines.
I couldn't tell, but historically, I know at the moment now the V8 builds use depot tools on Intel, so it downloads those.
Yeah, now I was thinking about power for that, so that wouldn't have been it. I mean,
but there might be something like I think on Intel we run a perf test on a V8 upgrade, so it might be something like perf. Might not
yeah,
be.
perf. Yeah, so perf, you're right. Like perf is an installation. So, but I think like when we get to, we should install this, we should upgrade the second one and just do some V8 runs on it and see if they work or not, and then do the other one. So
that's reasonable.
Yeah, and after we've done it, we can revisit whether we should, allow both of them to run the V8 stuff anyway.
So the only thing that I think might make sense, but I'm a bit hesitant to do it right in this period, is upgrading the Jenkins server itself. So the Jenkins, the test CI, that's still running on Ubuntu 16. And at some point we should try and upgrade that. And that would benefit from people not using Jenkins because
right.
Yeah. So my only hesitancy there is a Jenkins security update due out tomorrow. So
yeah, it's probably not a good time to mess with that either then.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's good to do them to the same time or to plan like another shorter one too would be another option.
Well,
right?
I think whenever we do it, we're going to have to basically ask people not to use the CI. To upgrade the server, we're basically going to have to take it offline and upgrade it.
Right.
So there will be a period where it will be inaccessible.
But I'm just wondering, like, does it actually make sense to tack that on to a period where people have already not had it, or would it be better to wait like a month and then take another day or something? So.
Oh well, something because I think if the Jenkins security update wasn't due out tomorrow, I would have suggested doing it in this period. But I think there's too many changing parts otherwise to do.
Okay, so we're back to heads up to everybody. We'll be locked down for a little while.
That was a bit of a diversion. Sorry.
It's okay. Okay, any other announcements? Okay, so the things that were tagged for the agenda, node build IRC channel. I'm not sure who tagged that one.
That was me. So I tagged it because there was a discussion going on in Slack about this, and I don't know how visible that is because I don't believe everyone logs into the sort of build channel on Slack. And we used to have an IRC bridge from Slack to the build channel on Freenode, but as I understand it, that was reset as in I think Freenode reset all of their channels and nicknames. So the background to this is that the project as a whole has moved off Freenode. So we had a bunch of IRC channels, mainly for node.js, which was for general help, and node.dev, which was for like core contributors. They were on Freenode. They've now moved to Libera chat. And we have a build channel, which, as I just mentioned, was bridged over to Slack. So I've personally not looked into IRC for a long time. I've just been on the Slack end of that bridge. But I think Johan at least came into the channel a month or so ago and asked what was going on with the channel in that respect. And I don't know if Rod still uses IRC. It's just a sort of general question as to what we do with the build IRC channel. We could leave it on Freenode, but to be honest, I think everyone else has moved off it that's involved with the Node project. The channel, as I understood it, was a means to have some sort of real-time some sort of real-time mechanism that someone could ping a build member for something urgent. But it tends to be used by the release team, and the release team are on Slack. So I've basically opened the issue for the discussion as to what, you know, what do we plan, what do we plan to do with the build IRC channel effectively? You know, who is anyone still using the IRC side of it, and if they are, do we leave it where it is or move it to Libera where the other IRC channels have moved? And you know, do we try and re-establish the bridge to Slack? And then
Yes,
off that there was another discussion then as to whether the build channel should remain on the Node Slackers instance or move to the OpenJS Foundation Slack, which is where the release channel is. Or I think someone mentioned there's a thing called Slack Connect that you might be able to use to bridge the channel between two different Slacks.
Yeah, we have used the bridging before. I think the only issue is that the threads don't get mirrored similar to the IRC bridge. So it's a bit of a pain to use that. So I'd probably be in favor of, if we were going to move it, just move it and not use the bridge. Yeah, in terms of the IRC side, I guess if there's a potential that people are still using it, like Rod, we need to sort of clear it with him. But yeah, I don't know how much activity there's been in there or how many people have been posting in it. Apparently my IRC client disconnected from Node and I haven't reconnected it for a while. So I can't actually see if there's been any messages in the last few weeks. But I might keep that open and just keep an eye on it. And then we can revisit it for the next meeting. I mean,
that might actually be a good way, is to like post some messages there and say, you know, and
yeah,
are people using IRC here?
Yeah.
And you know, the proposals are, well, if yes, go
it's in the issue, yeah.
comment in this GitHub issue,
Exactly,
because
yeah.
otherwise we may move to Slack.
Yeah.
That
So
would be a good way to say, people could say, no, we still use IRC, right?
Exactly, yeah. Is the bridge definitely down then?
I believe so, but okay. I haven't. I only very briefly logged into Freenode, and there was hardly anyone in the channel. It looks like the channel. So as I understand it, all the channels were reset, so it's not even a registered channel anymore.
So right now there are 7 people in it, and 2 of them are me. So there's 6 people in it.
Okay. But I think when I logged in, there were no channel operators. So
correct, yes.
It's more or less sort of unmoderated, and
who are the 6, like out of the 6 people, how many of them are the 4 of us here?
None of us, I don't think. I think I'm the only one from this team that's in it. Miles is in it.
Right.
I don't recognize the other names. Tatiana, B. Hughes, and Gattuso.
So none of those sound like active build team members.
Yeah, indeed.
But anyway, so I opened the issue basically to try and get feedback as to what we do with it, because obviously it's a bit of an anomaly now if the project has moved to another IRC server, because obviously I guess the question is back to the intent of the channel. If it's just a chat medium between build working group members, then I don't think it's been used for that. But if it's a mechanism for other members of the node organization to talk to build, then I have seen that used, but only really in the Slack side because of sort of releases or the odd collaborator asking a build question.
Right. It's, I mean, if there's no build team members using it, then there's nobody to, it's not a good way to contact people, right?
Exactly. Well, well,
it would have been if it was still bridged to Slack, right?
Yeah, that was the point, as in the Slack conversation started with someone asking if the bridge was still working, and I think it might have been Tierney or someone said no, it's not working because everything was reset. Oh, was it Rich? Okay.
So I think like in terms of like, I don't think keeping it there is one of the options. Like given the discussion that's gone around in terms of Freenode and other things, it's like
I think it's either
we move to Libera. Or we just move and use Slack as the and I guess it's like, you know, for people, does here anybody have, you know, objections? Does anybody here saying, hey, we should really stick on Slack or on IRC?
I mean, I'm usually connected to both, to be honest. I mean, obviously I haven't been for the last couple of weeks for one reason or another. But I use IRC anyway, but I use Slack as well, so it makes no real difference to me.
So I guess it's like, it's
who wants it. Who wants it on
if
IRC,
people,
right?
yeah, if the, 3 of us here already said, no, we want to keep Slack, that would pretty much potentially answer the question, right? But if nobody
Keep
here
IRC,
is like
yeah.
saying we really want to have Slack, then it's a matter of confirming with the other build members whether, how they feel, and then maybe it's a simple answer, right?
So yeah, that's probably as far as we're going to go on that in this meeting. So I guess we keep it open and try, like you said, to point people at the issue for further discussion as to.
I think like maybe direct mention in that issue would make sense.
Okay.
Like, do you want to comment? Do you want me to comment basically like, hey, we talked about this in the meeting, but hey, Rod and Johan and Joao, what's your take, right?
Yep. Okay. I can.
It's interesting. I'm just looking at it. There's obviously only 6 people in the IRC channel. Looking at hash build in the Slack channel, there's 190. So I think that tells you where the momentum is.
Right. But yeah, I mean, as a sort of a joke to that, there was another thread where someone asked in, I think it might have been node dev on Slack, where the build channel was because they couldn't find it because it was
right.
It was in the Node Slack. It's in the Node Slackers workspace and not the OpenJS Foundation one.
I think that's the other one, and I would like. I'd also be happy if we said let's make it in the OpenJS Foundation one. Although if there's already one that's active in the Slackers, I don't have a strong feeling that way.
Yeah, I don't have an overly strong feeling. The advantage of going to the OpenJS Foundation one is that that's a paid instance.
It's the history,
so the Node Slack one isn't paid, so it is the history. But then I don't know that for build it's particularly that important to keep a huge amount of history.
Yeah, I mean, anything that's important is going to be an issue, right?
That would be my preference. That
right.
If something,
I mean, I guess it,
just for the
it's
emergency
like,
discussions, really.
You said the release one was going to be on.
The release one is on the OpenJS Foundation Slack.
Right.
So the release team have a release. It's either release or release WG. I can't remember offhand. There's a channel on the OpenJS Foundation Slack that the release team hang out in, and we mainly use it for announcements. But yeah, we do talk.
Right.
We do use it for all release working group sort of discussions. Normally, if someone's doing a release and needs either a review or help. But then,
so that could be an argument in that favor of that.
Yeah, so one of the arguments is it will be on the same Slack server that other channels are on.
Right.
So again,
the one,
yeah.
The other thing I just wanted to add on that front is there is an infrastructure channel which was created, a private one. Like there was some discussion about like, did we need a private way for the build team to discuss? And I had an action to come back to this team and discuss it, but I hadn't done that. But the channel got created anyway. So it's actually there already is a private channel we could add people to.
Okay.
And I don't know if the paid versus unpaid controls whether you can have private, non-private channels, but if it does, that's another potential reason.
But presumably then that is on the OpenJS Foundation.
That's on the OpenJS one, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, the reason the build channel is currently on the Node Slack, the Node Slackers Slack is, I think, just because of when it was created. It was
right.
created before the OpenJS Foundation.
Historic, exactly.
Yeah.
Historic. So it's part of it is where does the build team want the channel, and the other one is where would the constituents be. So like Stuart said, if there's 100 odd people in the channel already,
yeah, it's a question of would it be hard for them to move over? Is there any reason to move? There's part of the having things in one place isn't a bad thing, but on the other hand, yeah, if we force work on people for no reason.
Exactly. So yeah, that issue is just a general discussion about where this communication medium should be, because obviously everything's been set up over time, and it's just that is where it currently
Yeah,
is.
so it's two separate things. And let's see if anyone's using the IRC, and if not, we can probably deprecate it or move it, and then we can decide whether to move the channel onto the OpenJS Slack. It looks like even in the node.js Slack that you can create private channels, so that's not a paid versus unpaid thing. At least it's giving me the option. It's giving me the little checkbox to do it.
I guess the difference there might be like who has access to the private channels, right? Because the admins, in theory, will have access to the content or could join or whatever. Versus, so there'll be different admins for the different Slacks. But yeah, I would say let's just figure out the IRC versus Slack thing first, and then we can figure out.
Great.
And I think Ash did create a channel for alerts from Grafana, and that's on the OpenJS Foundation Slack. Is that
is
right,
it? Okay.
Ash?
So yeah, again, it would again having stuff all in the same places would be my preference. So
yeah. Okay, should we move on?
Yep. Okay, so that's now I'm trying to get back to the. Oh, there's the issue. Okay, interest in establishing build helper role. Ash.
Yes. So update on this. I have an AWX instance up and running. I have a PR open to add the playbook. It's all installed through Ansible. I've added a new playbook to restart the agent on all of our systems, besides a few of the tricky IBM ones that would be added anyway to fix those ones. The current thing I'm battling is our directory structure, because everything needs to be run inside an Ansible folder. The AWX doesn't seem to like that, although we have the same a directory structure as adopt. So I think I'll ask Stuart how they get theirs working.
I didn't have any particular problem with it, so yeah, we can look at that offline.
Yeah, I think there's probably something. There's I can fix it locally by setting an environment variable, but my version of AWX says this thing's not available yet. It says coming soon with a smiley face to change the environment variables.
Okay, and I'm using an older version of AWX than you are, so
yeah, so that's not great. But yeah, aside from that, that'd be good to go. I think I need to just set up some secrets, which I'll probably ask Richard to do because it's an infra machine. So I'll probably reset the machine and redo it all so it's properly like that. And the secrets as well. I need to figure out a way of decoding our secrets with them.
Have you figured out how to do the authentication into AWX?
So that's another thing. I have a issue open against Node.js admin, which I should ping. I'll do that tomorrow. I'll ping that because it's been 2 weeks and no one's objected to it. So
is that to get the GitHub authentication? Is it?
Yeah,
you can do it. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think that one basically, as long as I think our policy is like, unless somebody objects, we're good, right?
I can't imagine that's too controversial, so it should be all right.
So yeah. And then we'll just need to go ahead and create it. I can help you do that. It would be good. I think it's good to start, like you said, with a subset of the machines, but we probably want to loop back and see if there's any reason why like you said, there's a couple platforms it's a little harder.
Yeah, just like one of each.
We can figure out how to do that.
I think the only ones missing off the top of my head are ZOS and IBM I.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I don't actually know how those agents are started, so I haven't done that. But I've done all the service ones. I've done the Mac ones. I've done AIX. I think that covers everything, except maybe the pies. You should probably add the pies in there as well.
Okay. So anyway, I was just saying we should loop back on those. Like, it's good to let's not block on that for sure. Get out the ones you've got. But okay, so that sounds good. And then once we had that, we'd be ready to say, okay, let's inaugurate some build members, and here's the first thing you can do, right? And that'd be good. That's AWX when you say is Ansible Tower, right?
Yeah, it's the upstream of Ansible Tower.
Okay.
The free version.
Okay, anything more on that one before we move on?
No, I think that's actually to get that working, and then I can, like I said, move on to the next step of getting people involved.
That's great. So that's actually the end of our agenda. Anything else we need to talk about before we close out this week?
There was a couple of things that I wanted to mention. The Equinix are replacing the ARM64 systems that this supplies with. I spoke to them today about the new Ultra systems, and it sounds like they've got a new delivery of some, so there's a reasonable chance we might actually get them soon. This is to replace all their existing ones. So yeah, hopefully that will happen soon. We got a few at the Adopt Open JDK project, but yeah, the ones for Node haven't arrived yet, unfortunately.
I don't think we're in any major rush. It's just because it's going to be work once we get them, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just transferring stuff across. They're quite a bit quicker as well.
The pressures come
huge.
from them. The pressures come from their side because they want to retire the machines that were on.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
So until we get replacements, there's not much we can do.
Indeed. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just kind of pointing out that it's might be quite soon now.
Maybe coming. It may be happening.
Yeah. Indeed. The only other thing I wanted to mention was, has there been any more discussion on RISC-V? I know there was a thread on that, and there was a potential offer of some machines from, was it I can't remember the acronym now, project. Has there been any movement on that? Because we didn't set up any jobs for it, did we?
I don't think there's been anything beyond, like, there was some discussion in there. I remember asking, like, hey, would they be interested?
Yeah.
But I don't think we've taken it any further. I'm not sure how far they are along in terms of getting it even to build and so forth. But
I don't know. I see every now and then they open a PR to change some build scripts. So
yeah,
it still seems like it might be work in progress.
That's what I was kind of my take was, and I guess it's also like, you know, there'll be some work to actually set them up and all that. So we need somebody who's interested in doing that. Sounds like you might have some interest though, Stuart. So that would be.
I have 2 of them sitting on my desk. So yeah.
Okay. From them or somewhere else, I guess.
These are from other places. One is the Sci-5 Unleashed board, which is a 4-core one, and the other one is a beta one from BeagleBone, if you know them.
Yeah.
They've got a RISC-V board as well, and I managed to get on their beta program, so I've got that kicking around as well. It's a bit slower, lower power, but
I don't think we'd want to take on another Raspberry Pi kind of thing, to be honest. That would be the one caveat I have. Like, if they are going to offer hardware, it needs to be good enough hardware, you know, or we'd really want people asking to have it, right? Like,
I mean, the thing is, unlike it'll be similar to the Raspberry Pis, I suspect, in that it's going to be much better to cross compile it. So we could potentially put the build in place, but not necessarily schedule the tests on a regular basis or something like that. Because they are still quite slow. I was
hoping it was going to be more like an ARM where there's some good, you know.
Yeah.
Once we get up to a current number, once the Raspberry Pis move up to a newer version, or it's not even that, but like at some point we should be able to drop the whole Raspberry Pi thing and just use our real ARM machines, right? And I think everybody will be happier.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've been doing at Adopt is on the new Ultra systems that I've got, the new big ones that Equinix are going to supply us with, I've actually been using 32-bit Docker containers on that to build the product, which, you know, it's building natively in a 32-bit environment effectively, and you can run tests in that as well. So that might actually be a good path to getting rid of some of the Raspberry Pis.
Well, we have dropped the Pi 1s, I believe now. I don't think we've got any Pi 1s running in the CI.
Yeah.
So it's just Pi 2s and 3s. We still build for ARM 6 in the unofficial builds project, I think, but we only build those and we don't test them. And I think they're cross-compiled. So,
yeah, I'm going to have to drop off.
Okay.
But my final thing on that would be like, yes, if we could actually do something that would let us, you know, use these big machines, that sounds very interesting. And if we can, is for the RISC-V, we should try and start with something like that if we can, versus, you know, lots of little bits to try and keep running. So I'll see you later. I will make Ash the host for now, and so you don't drop when I end.
Yeah, I think that's probably about it anyway, is it? Is there anything else we need to discuss?
I-
All I have.
Yes, so Michael.
No, I don't think I have anything to add. I don't think I've got any big maintenance coming up. I don't think we have at all, do we? So there's no questions in the YouTube either. So I guess we'll leave it here and we can all go to bed and dream of the England victory that just happened.
Exactly.
All right.